Okay, first of all, I want to touch on a subject that you just casually mentioned at the beginning of your program. You said that Goldman Sachs sold much of their BP stock only a few days just prior to the Gulf oil gusher, and that BP's president sold 1/3 of his stocks just prior.
Yeah,
to the
BP
gusher.
sold 44%. He sold 1/3. Turns out the Goldman Sachs chairman of International was also the chairman of BP, but got out a month before.
I'm so glad that you mentioned this because it gives me an opportunity to say it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have dared do it. I lived with these people for 3 years. The average person has not the slightest idea as to the mindset of the elite. I have written 3 books attempting to tell people how these people think. The elite are a part of the occult. Are you catching me, folks? Now, keep in mind, I've been a minister of the gospel, the Bible, for 50 years. I lived with these elite for 3 years. They are a part of the occult. You wonder why did Goldman Sachs sell this stock so many days ahead of time? Their occultish connections told them to. You've got to understand that we're dealing with a spiritual warfare here that is so far beyond the imagination of the average person that unless you lived with them, you couldn't understand why BP president would sell this amount of stock. It wasn't that he knew this thing was going to blow. It's that his occultic connections, and you have even made a video on the occult. I know it was, you went out to California and
yeah, Bohemian Grove. I mean, it's even admitted that
it was marvelous. These people are a part of the occult, and as a result, they knew in advance what to do, not because they knew this thing was going to blow, but because their occultic connections had told them so.
I'm not into the occult, but I've had people that are into astrology, well-known businessmen here in Austin, I'm not going to say names, that have visited me saying that, you know, there's going to be catastrophe in the next few months, and this was before the spill, and there's going to be all this stuff happening, and it's going to get worse and worse going into July because, you know, the astrology says it. And I know that Ronald Reagan made every decision he did, down to the minute of a speech, to the color of his tie, off of his astrologer.
They went into a strata of oil that is so phenomenal that no company, including the Russians, have ever drilled into it before. The elite, even though they did not create this, even though they did not know it was going to happen except by the occultic words, the elite planned to use this disaster to accomplish their timeline of 2010 and 2012 exactly as was given to me by the 87-year-old elitist. And I appeared on your show. I gave every bit of it. It's on my 6 DVD set. 8 hours of DVD viewing, and they have told me that they are going to use this Gulf scenario as a method of accomplishing their timeline for 2010 and 2012 exactly as they told me they were going to do it. And, folks, they will. You have it coming. Now, my opinion, from what I have heard from Mr. X and my BP informants, you are not going to see this world capped anytime soon. We are going to see an event of such epic proportion that it is going to devastate much of the finances and the people of the United States of America, and will get Mr. Obama's programs through exactly like he wants them. And the elite have already told me that everything they gave me a year and a half ago, that they are going to use this as one of the major methods, now that it's happened, of getting their 2012 timeline done, Alex. You go down with a nuke and crack it further, and it'll be a total impossibility to ever in the history of the world to fill that back up until the day that it is emptied itself. That would be so catastrophic you don't even want to think about it.
And if the abiotic theory is true, and all the evidence is beginning to point towards it being true, more and more petroleum geologists are saying something's going on, these wells are replenishing, this is not finite, it could be an unlimited. I mean, the Gulf of Mexico could become known as the Black La Brea tar pit, and it could literally destroy the beaches of the planet for hundreds of years.
Alex, a radio talk show host whom I will not mention, called me on yesterday. He's very well known. He said, Chaplain, I was supposed to have a person on my program tonight who is a tourist rep in the Keys, down towards Key West, off of Florida. And he said, I had scheduled them. They were going to be on my program tonight. Can you fill in for them? I said, no. I promised Alex that I'd do his show first with this, and I kept my word. I said, why? He said, they called a few minutes ago, said that they were threatened. They were told not to appear on my program under any circumstances. There is a media blackout on them. Now I'd like to tell you what's going to happen. And I'll begin with John Hofmeister. I'm going to back up all of this with names and dates. I don't dare give this without it. John Hofmeister is the former president of Shell Oil, is the author of a book entitled Why We Hate the Oil Companies. You can go find this for yourself. Now, here's what he says. The BP disaster has raised questions about halting risky domestic oil extraction procedures altogether, including deep water programs. Bud Hofmeister, a longtime advocate of more domestic drilling, says America simply can't afford to stop drilling. America's net imports of foreign oil has jumped from 58.2% in 27 from 34.8% in 1973. That's according to the U.S. government. Now, Hofmeister says, while we dream about new energy systems decades from now, the price to consumers will have to pay for things like gasoline, electric, diesel would just skyrocket if America halted offshore drilling. Prices could go to a point where fixed income and low-income people are simply taken out of the personal mobility marketplace, which would be a shock and unnecessary because of our unwillingness to produce domestic resources. Now I'm going to give you his prediction. Here it is, what you're going to be paying for gasoline. I'm surprised somebody hasn't asked that so far. I know, it's down at the pump right now, but you haven't seen anything yet. I'm going to tell you what is John Hofmeister's statement, because you remember the President of the United States of America said just recently he's going to halt all future permits for offshore drilling, and here's what Hofmeister says. You can put it in your book. My Mr. X has told me this will probably happen, and here it is. People also don't want oil washing on their beaches, whether it is the Gulf of Mexico, Florida, or maybe the East Coast. And here it is. People also don't want oil washing on their beaches, whether it is the Gulf of Mexico, Florida, or maybe the East Coast. I'll go into that in a moment. Do you think that American public is going to say, we don't want the drilling offshore anymore? Well, here's what he says. To accept, he said, if Americans say that, you are going to be accepting $6 to $8 per gallon at the gas pump as an alternate in the near future.
I saw an AP article yesterday to interrupt where all the foreign oil companies and U.S. oil companies that had their rigs out there already drilling, the headline was, oil companies pull up stakes in the Gulf, and they're all just leaving. No new exploration, even in areas in international waters. It's over, and now Obama's saying he's going to try to stop deep drilling in the United States. And this is the move to nationalize the oil companies that we're now going to see from this. And the head of the Department of Transportation 2 months ago was in the New York Times saying, we are officially anti-car, and we're going to make you use buses and trains. So this is their dream.
If you're going on vacation anywhere, go quick. Don't even wait till the end of the summer. You are going to be paying $6 to $7 a gallon at the gas pump in the very, very near future.
And that means airline traffic's going to go up?
Oh, airlines will go bankrupt. There's no way that airlines can stand this. They'll nationalize the airlines. The government will take them over. Obama wants to make us a socialistic state, and he's going to do it because now he has the wherewithal to be able to. Now, I want to give you the other item, though. This one is future. And I have to read this. The oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico may have apocalyptic consequences. A report of the Russian Ministry of Natural Resources said the British petroleum oil spill is threatening the entire eastern half of the North American continent with total destruction, report says. An ominous report by Russia's Ministry of Natural Resources warned of the impending disaster resulting from the British petroleum, oil, and gas leak in the Gulf of Mexico, calling it the worst environmental catastrophe in all of human history.